How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today I've got a fun one for you. I'm here to give you all the reasons not to move to Boulder, Colorado, and we're starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Evertson. Listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or living around Denver, Colorado, then this is a channel for you. So the subscribe button and the notification icon you see on your screen, make sure you click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And hey, as much as I love trying to get a little creative and entertaining here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of Denver's most talented realtors. So the number and email on your screen, please know that I'm always the person answering your phone calls, answering your texts, answering your emails, there when and if you need me. I'm also fighting through allergies all day today, so you can feel free to make fun of me early on in this video. Now that we have that fun-filled stuff out of the way, let's get to what we're here for, and that is, what are the reasons you might not want to move to Boulder, Colorado? All right, so listen, there is a reason that Boulder is one of the most desired and beautiful towns that you will ever meet. There is a reason that a lot of people, not just from Colorado, but nationally and around the globe, will visit Colorado and will go to check out Boulder. There's a reason tourism is so high there. It's a gorgeous town with a lot to like about it. So, because of that desirability, we can cover the first reason why Boulder might not be the best place for you to move, and that is the fact that Boulder is expensive. And I don't mean expensive like in comparison to the national average, because Denver is expensive when it comes to that. We're above the national average for housing and general cost of living, groceries, gas, utilities, things of that nature. Well, Boulder is even more expensive than Denver. And in fact, the key area where Boulder is more expensive is in housing. There's so much desirability and so much demand for housing in Boulder that as of the making of this video, housing was approximately 30% more expensive in Boulder than Denver. And you're talking about an area, Boulder is roughly 45 minutes to an hour northwest of Denver. It's not like we're a couple hours away from that town. There's that much desirability for Boulder. There's also, Boulder is geographically a lot smaller than Denver. There's just not as much space. There's not as many houses. There's not as many opportunities. So housing from a demand standpoint, from a shortage standpoint, from a cost standpoint, is not going to get better at any point. That purchase price for homes, that rent price for homes is going to continue to rise. So that has drawn, that affordability has caused a lot of people who work or want to be around Boulder to actually live on the outskirts, 20, 25, 30 minutes outside of Boulder. And it's also caused the expense ratio for some of those communities to increase. So communities like Superior, communities like Louisville, not Louisville, that's Kentucky, Louisville, have seen their affordability increase because of people living there to be close to Boulder. The second reason that Boulder might not be for you, and man, I'm gonna take some grief for this, but it's the people. Love, hate, like, dislike, and my wife has so many friends, and we have now so many friends in Boulder. I love getting up there. But the people of Boulder they're just interesting. I don't know how else to put it. Denver is a very outdoorsy town. We like to get out, we like to enjoy the sun, we like to hike, do all those things. Boulder, it is outdoorsy on steroids. They are biking, hiking, walking trails, doing yoga in the park to the extreme. They are always, I shouldn't even say extreme, they're just going that side all the time. And Boulder people also take a special pride in being in or from Boulder. It's just a level. There's a little bit of, they say granola, there's a little bit of tree hug, there's just a nature vibe about it. And if it's your energy, you're gonna absolutely adore it. If it's not, I don't know, it might drive you crazy. One of my first trips up to Boulder, and I like to tell the story because I just think it says a lot about kind of how Boulder is. I'm sitting on a patio at a restaurant on Pearl Street, which is this great walkable shop neighborhood. It's right in the heart of town, right? It's just a walking traffic strip of road. And we're on this patio at this restaurant, and someone, I don't know, a couple blocks away honks their horn as they're obviously driving. And you would have thought that people had spotted Bigfoot. Like the entire restaurant stopped, the patio stopped. They're like looking around, like what was that noise? Like they heard a whale call in the middle of Colorado. And one man in particular said, that's not Boulder. Well, that's Boulder. And that's kind of the people of Boulder and the energy of Boulder. They have, I don't think it's open anymore, they had a bar in which the drinks that they served at this bar they marinated in jars, and those jars had headphones placed on them. And within those headphones was different vibrations and sounds that were played to the drinks you were going to have. Okay? If that is routine, cool, and I'm telling you, that is a reason to absolutely love the place. Just be aware, that's kind of the vibe there. And when I say that people of Boulder take a lot of pride in Boulder, they take pride in the fact that they're outdoorsy. They take pride in the fact that they're in shape. These aren't bad things, okay? I'm just giving you, you might like this, you might not. They take pride in the fact they're outdoorsy. They take pride in the fact that they are in shape. They take pride in the fact that there's a very progressive, liberal kind of reputation there. And the people that kind of carry that own it. Good, bad, or indifferent, they own it. If that's something that's gonna frustrate you, be aware of it. They take pride in their intelligence. They take pride in both their education and how aware they are of things going on. How aware they truly are, again, I'll leave that up to you and your experiences with them, but just be prepared for that. So again, the hustle and bustle of Denver versus kind of the, let's chill, let's go ride a bike, let's go walk some trails. You know, I'm working remote, let's do this, of Boulder. The third reason Boulder might not be for you is that Boulder, whether they like it or not, is quite a bit of a college town. And I wouldn't say they don't like that. I mean, I think Boulder accepts that and appreciates that. But the University of Colorado, aka CU, because we like to reverse our letters and our names, we say the University of Denver, we call it DU. We say the University of Colorado, and we call it CU. But regardless, if Boulder has a population of 108,000 people, as I mentioned, according to the 2020 census. About 30,000 of those 108,000 are college students. So from obviously early fall until the end of spring, you have 30,000 18 to 23-year-olds piling into this town, and then, you know, for a couple months, few months of the year, a lot of them leaving. So the city has a different energy when school's in session and when school is not. Obviously, when you're out and about, you're going to restaurants and you're going to bars and you're doing things, not just in the evening, but when you're out and about, 18 to 23, 24-year-olds tend to not be homebodies, at least the majority of them. So that's a big influx of the town. Again, is it a bad thing? No, it's just a college town atmosphere, and that's something that you need to be aware of if that's a place that you're gonna call home. Reason number 4 that Boulder might not be for you, and again, this kind of ties into the people, but it is how outdoorsy are you and what type of activities do you enjoy? So if you're living in Denver, Denver is a good sized city. You have your zoos, your botanical gardens. You have dozens of music venues from big stadiums to small, you know, intimate places. You've got museums and art shows, and like I've already mentioned, sporting events. You have a lot of things to do. And you also have a lot of sectors and areas you can go to for restaurants, bars, nightclubs, a bit of everything. Boulder's a smaller town. Boulder has, you know, it has the Boulder Theater. It has Pearl Street. It has a couple, you know, intimate music venues, but there are really no nightclubs in Boulder if that is your thing. There are bars and restaurants, but obviously fewer selections in a much smaller area. And Boulder tends to go to bed at midnight. Not that Denver's some, you know, rager till 4 o'clock in the morning, but if you're a big nightlife person and you're a big get out and go person, Boulder has a calmer vibe. Now, if you're a big outdoors person, I don't think you can beat Boulder. The people of Boulder embrace, they love getting out to their hiking trails, getting out to their biking trails. The Chautauqua Trail up there's a neighborhood, the Chautauqua neighborhood is right next to this hiking trail on the Flatirons. And you drive up there on a sunny, well, hell, any time of the year when it is hikeable. And there are people flocking from this neighborhood to those hiking trails. That's the energy of Boulder. And people in Boulder, Denver folks will try to get you out and about. They want to get you to a park, play some volleyball, some kickball. They want to get you up into the mountains here and there. In Boulder, you need to want to do those things, or else you might have a tough time finding things to do in Boulder, and you might have a tough time finding people to do them with if that's not something you want to do. So if outdoors is not to your liking, Boulder is probably going to be a challenging fit for you. The fifth thing you need to be aware of that might not make Boulder the best place for you is your work situation and the opportunities you're looking for. Now, obviously, if you're working remote, it's not going to matter. If you're in the tech space, you've got some good opportunities. Microsoft has an office up there. Google has a massive complex up there. So there's opportunities in the tech space. But again, Boulder, smaller town, not as many jobs up there as you would find in Denver. A lot of people and not a lot of the high paying jobs that might keep you up there outside of the tech space. So a lot of people living in Boulder or around that region will actually make the drive down to Denver or the tech center, Greenwood Village, maybe down to Broomfield. They have a tech area there, the Interlochen. So Boulder is limited as far as those work opportunities in comparison to Denver. I'm not saying that it's limited in itself, but in comparison to Denver, that's something you need to be aware of. And then number 6, just kind of talking about some of the, I don't want to say that these are major, these are kind of minor, tic-tac things that could bug you, could not. So transportation. Denver has a light rail. They've got, a good busing system. By and large, a decent busing system. Ubers and Lyfts, pretty easy to get. Boulder, a little more challenging. There's no light rail. Their bus system, bit more limited. Uber and Lyft, again, it's a smaller town. It's a college town. There's not as many Ubers and Lyfts to get you around, and depending on the time of year, there are more or less available. So transportation can be an issue. Climate. The climate there, the weather in Boulder is not crazy different from Denver, but it is a little colder. On average, their winters are a little worse, and they tend to see a bit more snow. They're a bit higher, a little farther west, so you have a slight difference. And Boulder's also in that valley, so you tend to get, like I said, a little more snow, a little more rain, but a bit more ice. So is it a lot different than Denver? No. Is it catastrophic? Like, it's always sunny and gorgeous in Denver, and it's a snow pile in Boulder? No. But it's just a tad. Also, if you don't like skiing, a lot of people in Boulder, they love skiing and they're an hour from the snow lifts. So with that snow comes the reminder for all these folks in Boulder that they want to head up the hill and ski. And if you're not a skier, you might be just stuck in Boulder with what snow they have. That's a little more than what you got in Denver. There's times where I'm saying something and I know it just doesn't make sense, but hopefully that made some sense to you in a nonsensical kind of way. And the last factor, and this is not to say that Denver does not have its own issues, but crime in Boulder has been on the rise, specifically since 2020. And when you talk to a lot of people up there, when I talk to friends, colleagues, clients, the big thing, violent crime is up a bit, but it's up in Denver as well. And I say a bit, not extreme. I would do your own research there, so I'm not misquoting any stats. But specific to theft, to breaking into cars, having cars stolen, items stolen from people. Pearl Street, again, this big walkable area, a lot of vagrancy. So those challenges that have been on the rise since 2020. In Boulder's defense on that, Denver has seen a lot of that same problem. A lot of cities in this country have seen that same problem. And what you've seen on Pearl Street in Boulder has some similarity to what we've seen down in Denver on 16th Street Mall for years. 16th Street Mall being a very similar, walking, no vehicles other than buses, but no vehicles along the road, just walkable mall. And you're starting to see more and more issues along that road. Now, Pearl Street is still incredible to walk. It is still filled with people day in, day out. There's still, street performers and a lot of things going on Pearl Street. Nowhere near kind of the issues we've seen on 16th Street Mall, but something to be aware of and something that my friends up in Boulder have made sure to remind me of. All right, and the last thing we're gonna mention of reasons you might not wanna move to Boulder, and this is gonna be specific to your situation, but according to the people who like to complain to me about it, dating is difficult in Boulder. So listen, if you're in a relationship, maybe you're married, maybe you have family, whatever, you can just ignore this part because it's not really gonna apply to you, I hope. But from what my friends and colleagues have told me, dating can be a bit challenging in Boulder. And it's not because of the fact that there aren't single people. There are plenty of single people in Boulder. And we're gonna split off, obviously, the college students, because we're not talking about waiting until college kids come into town and then dating them. But for the rest of us just living around Boulder, dating can be challenging because one, there's not as many things to do, not as many options maybe to get out and about. And it's also kind of this idea, we talked about the people of Boulder being a bit interesting. Well, it can be interesting for the people of Boulder to date the people of Boulder. One of the jokes a friend told me, I had one friend who said dating, as far as dating men in Boulder, that they were struggling to find a guy that was like actually an adult going to work. They had this vibe that they wanted to fish all the time or live in a van. I'm not saying that's only a Boulder thing. It was just a humorous story my friend told me. And then as far as my friend who was trying to date women, one of my favorite stories was that he said, man, I just keep finding women that want to be yoga instructors, but they won't go get trained to become a yoga instructor. So I don't know, different vibes, different places in life. Take it for what it is. I'm married now, so I can't really talk in depth about dating anymore. I mean, she might hear me and get the wrong idea. So listen, in the famous words of New York Yankees catcher Yogi Berra, nobody comes here anymore, it's too crowded. Boulder is going to continue to be one of the most desirable places for people to live, especially if they like the vibe of nature and calm and beauty. Boulder is one of the prettiest towns you will ever see, but there are reasons to consider why it might not be best for you, and it's not just because of the affordability, although that's going to be a big one. If there's something that you consider or something we haven't discussed, that's a perfect opportunity for you to hit me up. The phone number, the email popping up on your screen. I'm always the person answering your phone calls, answering your texts, answering your emails, there when and if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. That was the reasons not to move to Boulder, Colorado. Until I see you next time, peace.